Hello grade 8, hope you all are doing well. This is Miss Mary. Today we will solve the revision sheets, the science revision sheets, but let me tell you first what we have covered during this quarter. We covered chapter 6 about evolution, chapter 20 about introduction to atom, and chapter 21 about the periodic table. So let's start. Question 1. Which of the following is not evidence that whales evolved from mammals? How scientists know that whales evolved from mammals? Because from fossils, so not A, and from the hip bones of the whales. We found hip bones in the skeleton of whales, so this also is evidence, and the fact that whales are mammals. So the only thing that is not evidence for whales evolved from mammals is letter C, the fish-like shape of the whales. Question 2. What are two signs that different species may have in common ancestor? How can we know that two different species, they might have the same ancestor? Of course, when they have similar DNA. When their DNA is similar and when they have similar traits. So the letter A is the answer. Question 3. The process consisting the three steps is separation, adaptation, and division, speciation. We call them speciation, so the answer would be letter D. Next question, question 4. Over time, animals may change behavior or physical appearance in response to changes in the environment. When animals change over time to survive in the environment, we call this, we call this adaptation. Question 5. What is the process by which organisms that are better adapted to their environment survive and reproduce more successfully than less well adapted organisms? The organisms that adapted, they have more chance to survive, and this we call this natural selection. This is the theory of natural selection. Letter D. Next question, question 6. Many insects can adapt very quickly to the insect side. So the answer for this question will be because insects have a short generation time. What is the generation time? The generation time is the time between birth and death. The process by which populations slowly change over time. When the organisms slowly change over time, this is called evolution. So the answer is letter D. Next, what process often begins by a portion, when a portion or part of the population becoming physically or geographically separated? When they are separated, the population, we call this speciation, selective breeding, development, or resistance. And as we know, this was the first step in speciation, so we will write here the answer is letter A. Next question. Question 9. What process would farmers use to produce vegetables that will grow in a specific climate? This is called selective breeding. So now question 10. When certain genes make organisms more likely to survive and reproduce. This is also the same meaning like natural selection, so the answer will be selection. Question 11. Scientists compare organisms' DNA to support the theory that all the species share a common ancestor. Question 12. A spider may produce hundreds of eggs, only a few of which may survive. This is an example of overproduction. Question 13. The trace remains of an organism that lived long ago. Anything left from the animal or the plant and commonly preserved in a sedimentary rock, we call this fossil. Question 14. Populations of all species are limited by. What can limit a population from growing bigger? The starvation, diseases, competition, and predation. All of them, they stop population from increasing, and we call them limiting factors. Question 15. The fact that an organism's offspring are not identical. Offspring in sexual reproduction, they are not identical to their parents, and this is known as inherited variation. Question 16. Darwin theorized that individuals having an advantage due to their traits or abilities will be more likely to survive. This theory is known. So the theory of Darwin is called natural selection. Question 17. What does a speciation create? Speciation that comes from 3 steps: separation, adaptation, and division. This make new species. Question 18. What can 2 different species have in common? 2 different species, they may have the same ancestors, so the answer is B. Question 19. What helps an organism survive in its environment? What helps them to survive is adaptation. Question 20. Sometimes a part of the population moves away from the rest. This what step is called separation. Question 21. Over the years, the excessive use of antibiotics has resulted in the development of what scientists call superbacteria. These superbacteria are resistant to non-antibiotic. This is an example of when bacteria become more resistant to antibiotics. This is an example of natural selection. So question 22. A group of herbivores are separated from their population. An herbivore is an organism that eats only plant material. In the new environment, the only edible vegetation grows at the top of tall trees. Which of the following is likely a physical adaptation that may develop? So if a herbivore eats from trees, so what kind of adaptation it will have? Of course, it will have long neck, like giraffes. They have long neck because it eats from trees. Question 23. Which of the following features did whales possibly inherit from a 4-legged ancestor? Whales, as we said before, they have hip bones, and the hip bones indicate that they may evolve from mammals that lived on land. Question 24. The smallest particle in which an element can be divided and still be the same substance is called the smallest particle in the matter is the atom. Next question, question 25. What particle did J.J. Thomson discover? J.J. Thomson, he made the plum pudding model, and he discovered the electron. Question 26. How would you describe the nucleus? The nucleus is dense positively charged, tiny negatively charged, or large positively charged, or dense negatively charged. As we know, the nucleus is the center of the atom. It has protons and neutrons. Protons are positive, neutrons have no charge, so the answer will be dense positively charged. Question 27. Where are electrons likely to be found? Electrons are found in the electron clouds around the nucleus. Question 28. Dalton believed that atoms of the same elements are exactly alike. Most substances are made of atoms. Atoms of different elements are the same. Atoms can be divided. The answer is letter A, that Dalton believed that atoms of the same elements are exactly the same. Question 29. What did Democritus, Dalton, Thomson, Rutherford, and Bohr, they all have in common? They each identified new elements. They each identified new isotopes. They each contributed to the development of atomic theory. They each conducted experiments in which particles collided. They all helped in the discovery of the atomic theory. So letter C. Question 30. In Thomson plum pudding model of the atom, the plums represent the plums which embedded inside, they represent the electrons. or the negative charge. Question 31. An atom of gold with 79 protons and 79 electrons and 118 neutrons would have a mass of number of. The mass number is the number of protons and neutrons. So protons and neutrons together, they will be 197. Next question, which of the following has the least mass? The least mass in the atom is electrons. If an isotope of uranium, uranium-235, has 92 protons, how many protons does uranium have? Here uranium and here also uranium, so they will all have the same number of protons, which is 92. So the answer will be 92. Question 34. How did Democritus describe atoms? Large soft, divisible particles, small hard particles, or a single material with one shape and size? So the answer is small hard particles. Question 35. What is the smallest particle into which an element can be divided and still be the same? The smallest particle in the element is the atom, letter D. Question 36. What did Bohr, Democritus, Thomson, Dalton, and Rutherford, they all have in common? They each identified the electromagnetic force. They each identify new electron clouds. They each develop ideas about atoms, or they each conducted experiments with ions. The answer is letter C. They each developed ideas about atoms. Question 37. In Thomson model, plum pudding model of the atom, the plum represents, as we said before, they represent electrons. Question 38. An atom of carbon with 6 protons and 6 electrons and 6 neutrons would have mass number. As we said before, the mass number is the protons and the neutrons. So 6 plus 6 will be 12. The mass number of carbon is 12. 39. If hydrogen 1 has 1 proton, how many protons does hydrogen 2 have? This is hydrogen 1. 1 is the atomic mass, so hydrogen 1 and hydrogen 2. Both of them are hydrogen, so they both have atomic number 1, or they have protons 1. So this was everything for today. We will continue solving in the next video. See you soon. Bye bye.